And we're live. Hi, I'm Annette, your host here at Word on the Curve. You can see us tonight on Facebook at Word on the Curve Podcast or YouTube, Word on the Curve Podcast Studios. Again, I'm Annette. Welcome back. For those of you who are returning, for those of you who are new, we're happy to have you here. I have a very special guest tonight. But before we get started, I have to thank my producers, Frank and Christina Sasso. I want to offer condolences to anybody who has recently lost a loved one or has lost a loved one in the past and are still grieving. Grief is a journey and it takes time, and nobody can determine what that time looks like for you. And so I just want you to know that I care and I'm praying for you and your family through difficult times. I also want to shout out Elisa Robinson Carter. She is the bomb hostess and caterer. If you want to see somebody, give her a call. She's on Facebook, Elisa Robinson Carter. And I want to shout out Sakina Iman, who is located in Hamilton. I don't remember the name of the place, but Sakina Iman, look her up on Facebook. She's a phenomenal caterer as well. I like to see Black women doing it. So keep doing it. Entrepreneurship is important and it makes a difference. And I want to remind you of something tonight. No matter who you are and where you are, when a woman is in a fight, especially a Black woman, she's usually alone. Lift her up and support her. Welcome, Ka'Neda.
Thank
How
you.
are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. I'm so happy to have you here tonight. You have such exciting things to talk about. Mm-hmm. But I think most important for me, your foundation and your insight are very, very important. So Ka'Neda's going to be on a 3-part podcast tonight, introducing herself and letting you know who she is. But before you do, I want to remind you to drink water, which I transferred to a glass because my mother could still be looking down and chastise me for drinking out of a bottle.
Okay.
Hydrate. Drink water, eat fruit, moisturize your feet, hands, and face, and mind your business. Hey, Ka'Neda.
Hello.
Please introduce yourself and tell me just a little bit about who you are before we get into our questions. Tell the audience who Ka'Neda is.
Well, first, thank you for having me on and having a great conversation. Looking forward to it. Yes. I'm really excited to talk tonight, so appreciate you inviting me. Hello, everyone. Hello. My name is Ka'Neda N.Bullock. And as was mentioned before, I am from the Mercer County area, born and raised in Lawrence. Well, born in Trenton, raised in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. But I'm so happy to be here because of the journey I've taken to get here. I'm a certified financial planner. Yes. And when you think about what that means, and I'll tell you more about it as we talk, it's a lot. And it's motherhood, it's being a wife, it's being a woman who is often the budgeting person in the family. But all of those roles that we often take on and lead in the household, yes, it has allowed me to really exercise and really stretch my muscles in being a CFP, a certified financial planner. So happy to have a conversation with your audience and really looking forward to the conversation. Outside of my professional life, I have a beautiful family.
Okay.
Bella is my 9-year-old. Madison is my 7-year-old. And Eric is my husband of 13 years. We just celebrated our anniversary.
Good. Happy anniversary. Yeah, I saw that. Happy anniversary. Hey, love, friendship, and commitment is everything. Marriage is sacred. Yes. So happy anniversary.
Thank you. And that support is unparalleled. I think you really limit yourself if you don't have a partner that supports you and challenges you and knows how great you can be and pushes you to do that.
That's right. That's what partnership is all about.
Yes.
So before we jump into the questions that we have tonight, I want you to answer one thing for me.
Sure.
So just share a little bit behind your decision to focus on helping individuals and businesses build generational wealth. Just quickly, where did that come from?
Sure. So there are a number of statistics that talk about the importance of business owners in
Mhm.
building wealth in America and our communities.
Right.
So if you just think about where you go grocery shopping, where you get your hair done, where do you go to pick up your pharmacy, your any prescription drugs? Those organizations, whether they're small businesses or large entities, circulate our dollars in the community. So when I'm able to work with a business owner, I immediately have the ability to help them on the tax. You okay? Help them on
Yes.
okay, help them on the tax side with estate planning and managing their taxes with retirement plans. Help them build wealth through their children and next generation. So there's so many creative strategies we can implement with a business owner. And individuals are often entrepreneurs at heart as well, but they may find their more permanent professional role at a corporation. So I like to make sure we not only consider the opportunities that business owners have, but individuals as well. So when I started in corporate America, it was just about institutions, the larger institutions, pension plans, but all that investment knowledge I saw was really missing in a lot of the conversations advisors were having with their individual clients. So when I
So,
saw I was called to move over, I brought all that experience with me.
and that's how it works. That's
Mhm,
how businesses are built.
mhm,
But I just want you to delve in just a little bit more
mhm,
because a lot of the audience that's going to hear you now and later
mhm,
may not necessarily understand generational wealth. I
mhm.
need you to break it down. Generational wealth means what? Building, buying a house and passing it down, by having a business, because there's an entrepreneur in every single one of us, whether
Right.
we know it or not, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
So break that down just a little bit more for me, please.
sure. I'll focus on 2 points. Many people believe that generational wealth is inheriting a dollar or an asset, but that is the furthest from the truth.
Right.
Generational wealth starts with work ethic, responsibility, doing what you say you're going to do and doing it well, and a life learner, wanting to attain knowledge, do better. Because I've seen individuals inherit businesses that fail because they're missing one of those key ingredients.
That's
So
right.
my core is making sure we teach knowledge and positive habits so that generational wealth doesn't get to the one generation and stop.
Very good.
So I believe in transferring wealth through homes, using equity to build businesses. But if you transfer those assets without that knowledge, the work ethic, it will be short-lived.
So the whole point of that is generational wealth begins with the very foundation that you spoke to.
Mhm.
And that's what our audience has to understand. Because most people think it's just inheriting dollars
Yeah.
or it's all about money. It's a
Mhm.
mindset, it's a lifestyle, right?
Mhm.
And so that's important. So let's jump into this wealth management and financial planning. What are some common misconceptions that people have about investing and financial planning, and how do you address it with your clients? Ka'Neda,
I'm
I
here.
think,
I have a
okay,
question. Thank you. So
okay.
common misconceptions are twofold. One, I'm too young to start investing. I need to pay off my debt first. Two, I'm too old to do this. I've already missed the opportunity. And then the last one is I'm too close to retirement to take on more risk. So,
That is a thought. That's
mhm,
definitely, as
mhm,
a retiree, I can tell you that is absolutely
mhm,
a misconception.
mhm.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, 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 thank you. So the first, I'm too young, is a common belief because weight is a burden. It's a mental stress, it's a
Yeah.
financial stress, and it's really challenging, especially if you have a family, to manage contributing to an investment account. But when we talked about generational wealth before, those are habits, right? You can't only pay off debt because what
Right.
happens when an emergency arises? You reaccumulate the debt because you don't have cash reserves for a rainy day.
Right.
So the idea is that you have to have a multi prong approach. I'm saving a little, I'm investing a little, I'm paying off debt as well. And the discipline helps you achieve that goal of paying off debt. It's not easy, but you can do it.
And so you approach it by creating a personalized financial plan, or do you just hand them a sheet of paper? What do you do?
So financial plan is personalized. So use an example. One client that I started working with, she's a young lady, young professional. And I love her story because she was very clearly admitted, Ka'Neda, I didn't learn about money growing up. My parents were not financially secure, so I didn't have those healthy habits. But I'm now in a career earning more than I ever imagined. And we call her a first generational wealth builder.
Okay.
Her plan is going to look very different than another couple's plan that I just met with. One husband works for a local pharmaceutical company, and the wife is in higher education. They have dual income, 529 college savings accounts, completely different family backgrounds, but both of them have a financial vision. And that's where we start. The customization starts with your vision.
Just jump into healthy habits again. Mm-hmm. Tell me, what is it? 5 healthy habits, or is it 4? What is it? If you wanted, you said to me, listen, Word on the Curve podcast, we need you to develop some healthy habits financially. Mm-hmm. What would you tell me?
So first, we have to have a goal. You know, the honest truth is I'm not going to stop doing something I love, whether that's going out to eat with friends, just enjoying being social, whether it's buying or shopping, if I don't have something that's worth the sacrifice. So for me, it may be, I have a trip plan with my friends to the Bahamas. So if I need to save for that trip, I'm going to sacrifice maybe eating out to lunch or going to happy hour or spending a bit more than I am.
I don't think anybody's giving up happy hour. So just pick that up.
Just to spend, I didn't say give it up, but spending your budget may be different, right? But if you don't have anything that you are excited about to sacrifice and make that a reality, it doesn't get done. Just being honest. And sometimes it's, I've seen my parents struggle in retirement, and I do not want to have that lifestyle. That's a goal. So that's often enough for someone to change their habits of overspending or disregarding their budget. And just because you make more money doesn't mean you don't just spend more money.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Well, the problem is, as I'm sure you're more aware than I am, a lot of people don't have budgets. Mm-hmm. So where would you tell them to start with budgeting?
I would say the first place you start with is if you use a debit card, or most people don't use cash, but if you use cash, try to write it down. But a debit card is a secret to your spending, as is your credit card. Most of those apps or online accounts have a pattern. They show you where you spent your money, how much you've spent, and they categorize it for you.
Yes.
So if you don't actually write it down yourself, don't think that your bank isn't watching what you spend. They're organizing it for you. So I would say, look at what you spend now, and then see if you're comfortable with giving this one place so much of your money. And
That's
then
right. That's right. You're absolutely right. So if I'm looking at my budget based on what my bank does for me, mm-hmm. For example, I knew that last year I spent so much money on entertainment. Mm. And when I thought about it, with the exception of big trips, mm-hmm. I couldn't remember what that entertainment was. Okay. So I made a decision to cut that part of my budget back to some degree, mm-hmm. and be more conscious about where I was spending those entertainment dollars. So for example, I might have gone from, no exaggeration, a $500 or $600 a month entertainment budget on things that I couldn't even remember, like the next week, to dwindling it down to half of that and then a quarter of that, unless I'm planning a big trip. Mm-hmm. So for example, I can't go out all the time and splurge. right? I had to accept that. I don't like that. I like covering the bill most of the times, when I'm out, but I can't do that. If I'm going to have a realistic budget, I have to know where and how I'm spending my money. So thank you for that. Healthy habits are important. And I think what I heard you say is it begins with tracking what you're spending.
Yes, track what you spend and hold yourself accountable. You just described your process and you held yourself accountable. It's nice to know, but if you don't do anything about it, there will be no change in your actions.
If nothing changes, nothing changes.
Right.
So, what advice would you give to someone who is just starting out their journey towards financial literacy? That means becoming aware, I think, right?
Right.
And understanding your money and your spending habits and wealth building. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting? Because believe it or not, there are so many who have not started, and you got to make it simple for them. Because if it's too complicated, they're going to walk away from the process. I did many times. I'm only telling you what I know from experience.
Yeah. And I think some professionals want to make it confusing. It can be. We can talk about Sharpe ratios and risk reward analysis and different theories of portfolio construction. But if that's not helping you grow wealth, that's not helping you save, and it's not helping you at all. So I would say build a community. It's hard to do anything by yourself. Let's just start there.
That's right.
Build a community of others who, and it's okay to, and I always look at my background, single mother, raised 3 girls. We looked at a budget. My mother followed her budget. And of course she splurged. Who doesn't? But the point is, if you want to make a change, it's hard to do it by yourself. So if you can have a community of others who understand where you want to go and want to go there as well, you're more likely to be successful. So you can trade tips. This didn't work for me, but this worked for me. And it's almost like an encouraging community of this day was not a good day, but I know we're all in this journey together and I'm willing to make sure we get up and do it again.
So when you come back, and you're going to come back,
yeah,
I want you to tell people how to create social circles that work to that advantage. Because so often we view our social circles as just entertainment, when in fact, there should be a whole lot more than that. Entertainment should be a piece of it, but the other piece of it should be lifting us up, right? And the financial wealth and building generational wealth can do that. So let's get to the balance, baby. Balancing roles as a mother, wife, business leader, kudos.
Thank you.
An active community member. How do you manage to balance all of these roles successfully? And following that, what lessons have you learned about leadership, personal growth through your involvement? And we're going to talk about Delta Sigma Theta, my girls, right? And Jack and Jill of America. So let's start with as a mother and those roles, and how do you balance that? Because as a business owner, you're an executive, right? And balancing family with an executive role, from my own experience, is not easy.
Right.
Do it.
Yeah. And it takes grace and patience. It's not easy at all. And I would say one of my main goals is to integrate the two as much as possible. So if you think of what it took to be an executive, what you learned, you watch someone try certain things that worked for them that might not work for you, try other things, other habits or characteristics that did work for you when you were able to adopt. So I want to give Bella and Madison that exposure. So if I can bring them to a conference that I'm speaking at, they're coming with me, and I acknowledge them. I make sure they are comfortable talking with people, advocating for themselves. And at the end of the day, just being really true and honest about their needs, because when you're a business owner, you have to recognize what you need to do and also read the room. Make sure you're developing your teammates who work with you. So it's multifaceted, and I want them to be exposed to that at all ages, 7 and 9, prime example. And I don't do it well all the time, first to admit. But I am truly thankful for how much Eric and I partner. So Eric, as I mentioned, is my husband of 13 years. We had first, what was it, 4 years or so before we were married. After we were married, we didn't have children, so it was just us. We had that luxury of just time together. So when we started building our family, it was a trial and error. We had to figure it out. But as you know, family is first.
Absolutely.
Family is first. So you often have to remind. So I'm on different boards. I have to remind board members. I have my daughter's swim meet. She came in first place. So showing them my excitement helps them remember their stage of life where I am with young children, because not everyone's there. So it's just kind of bringing them back. Like, remember those days you were juggling homework and tutor and this, but doing it with joy too.
I remember what my life was like, so I can imagine. But I'll tell you this, my experience, strength, and hope for you tonight is, and the audience, is these are the best years of your life. Mm-hmm. Have fun with the juggle, the struggle, and the achievements, because you're going to look back and see that you passed that down to your babies. Mm. And what you give them is what they're going to get. Right? Hopefully we can drag your husband into a podcast with you soon.
That would be fun.
Yeah, bring him on, because the other thing that people need to see is how partnerships work in businesses. Mm-hmm. You know, so hearing his side of it and your side of it and how it works or doesn't work would be a great podcast. Trust me. Tell me a little bit about Delta Sigma Theta and what brought you to those jewels and those pearls.
Sure. Well, I would say from high school, as a high schooler, I've admired the women of Delta Sigma Theta. And I'm not sure if we talked about it before, but I went to an all-women's college undergrad.
Okay, so, I didn't know that.
Right. So as a young high schooler, I really admired their community service and work. And there was a mentor at my high school that I always looked up to. And she said, "You remind me so much of a young Delta." And it always stuck with me. And I participated in different events in the town and in the area as well. But I went to Smith College undergrad, which I loved. There was a citywide chapter, and it's a predominantly white school. There were few African-American women on campus. And it didn't give me the opportunity to join. So when I graduated, I went to California, traveled, and came back to New Jersey in 2011 or 2010 before we were married. And the opportunity came about once I returned back home to Jersey. And it was the perfect timing. God has perfect timing.
Because so you played grad chapter.
I did. I played grad chapter. Mm-hmm.
And so while we're on the topic, for those of you who don't know, although we have different colors, because I'm an AKA, we have one heart in sisterhood. Mm-hmm. And that's for everybody in the Divine Nine, right? And our initiatives are pretty much the same. And the heartbeat of all of it, for every member of the Divine Nine, is service, community service. Right. And so when people look at Delta Sigma Theta, Phi Beta, what is it? Zeta, Phi Beta, Alpha Kappa Alpha, right? Mm-hmm. They think that there's a disconnect. I want to send a message to the community that it is not. And what happens in undergrad school is a whole lot different than what happens in grad school, grad chapter. We are literally one. I don't care what the colors are. Our goal is community service. And if you look around the world, and this is important, and you think about solidarity, what other community do you see aside from the Divine Nine who have solidarity in the sense that no matter where a Delta sits in this world, she knows what her Delta sister is doing across the world? That's phenomenal, folks. And whether you understand it or not, that's a solidarity that you rarely see in this world. but the Divine Nine is getting it done. Ka'Neda can go anywhere and find a Delta Sigma Theta and lean on that shield.
Right.
And when she finds that Delta sister, she and that Delta sister will have very much in common.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, no matter where they sit in the world, there's one agenda.
Right.
You rarely find that. And I think that that's something we need to talk about more because people have a misconception that it's about stepping, it's about color. It is not.
No.
There's so very little of what the Divine Nine does. And so Delta Sigma Theta is a phenomenal sorority with wonderful women. And I would encourage you to get to know their initiatives before you try to learn their steps. Because
Absolutely.
the step is just, a little bit of adventure. The initiatives are what they really represent.
Stand for.
And so while we're at it, some of their initiatives includes Dress for Success. That's a big initiative for you guys. And you have some other things as well that I can't think of off the top of my head, but there's so many initiatives that they have. You just need to check them out. Stop putting colors and look at the work that they do.
Absolutely.
All right. The Divine Nine is real across this world. Kudos to Delta Sigma Theta. Tell us a little bit about Jack and Jill, of which I know little.
Thank you. And I would say when you think about the pillars and the goal of Delta Sigma Theta, when we think about education, when we think about service, financial fortitude and security, life learning, those are clearly connected to Jack and Jill, but it's just focused on the next generation.
Right. I do know that they work with families, right?
Right. So it's a mother's organization, and the mother is in the organization as the member, and it's through her lifetime as a mother until her child graduates from high school. And at that point, she's still a member, but it's a different level of membership. An associate is the term that we use. But for example, Bella's in 4th grade, Madison's in 3rd. So we get together monthly to provide programming, learning about the importance of voting, learning about our history as it relates to voting, and teaching and giving them experiences that they cannot take away at school because it's organized for us, by us, and with an emphasis on Black excellence. And
that makes a phenomenal, they can't take it away.
No.
And this is how we groom our children.
Right.
Because again, they become what we are, whether we like it or not. They do.
A mirror.
That's right. So Delta Sigma Theta and Jack and Jill of America, kudos.
Correct.
Phenomenal organizations.
Thank you.
So we're going to wrap it up. But before we do, I just want you to hit 3 points about what we talked about tonight. Healthy habits, the lifestyle, and why you don't have to be afraid of budgeting.
All right. Healthy habits. I want to circle back to community, and that we always talk through, don't be the smartest in the room, right? So I made a call literally this afternoon. I want to buy a building. Eric and I are planning to buy an investment property in commercial real estate. I called another Divine Nine sister to get her input. If she wants investment advice, she's calling me. But you can't be the smartest in the room. You have to have a learning circle of community.
That's I tell people that all the time. The Women Who Mean Business Institute tells people that all the time. You don't want to be the smartest person in the room, because if that's your circle, it's not your circle. Go ahead, Ka'Neda.
So transitioning from that point to budgeting, it's all about perspective, right? I know I grew up with a certain level of exposure. When I went to college, I had another level of exposure.
Exactly.
When I graduated and went to work in California, I had another level. That excited me because I could see, oh, I can do this. This is how this works. But if I never held myself accountable to a budget, to doing something different that I wasn't always privy to in my family or taught how to do, then I'm self-limiting myself. I'm creating my own ceiling.
Right.
So we're willing to take that step and follow a budget. We're just crushing the ceiling and opening up many opportunities for us down the line.
So I want to thank you for that. Ka'Neda Bullock, a woman who means business, right?
Yes, thank you.
I want to bring you back with your husband eventually,
That would
right?
be fun. Right.
But I want to bring you back a little bit more again to talk about budgets, how simple they can be, encouraging folks not to overcomplicate them. And when they have a question, to reach out to you. Your business is financial planning and generational wealth and building community and lifting a sister up and a brother too. And I want people to get that message because there are very few of you doing what you do in the community at your age. Most times when we go in to see a financial planner, they're like 112 years old, right? And they're serious.
Yeah.
You know, like, so you gotta save $2,000 a month. Really? I spend that on clothes. Get out of here. I want you to talk to them
Right.
as if you're talking to your best friend and encouraging them to build circles of people who lift them up and talk to them about building generational wealth, about healthy habits, about whatever. And I like to encourage my audience to reach out to Ka'Neda. What is your email address?
Sure. So our firm is Master Plan Investment Group. And the best way to reach is simple: info at Master Plan Investment Group. Of course, follow us on Facebook and Instagram as well. LinkedIn is always an excellent way to get other information and resources as well.
I'd like you to reach out to Ka'Neda for speaking engagements. Bring her into your church, bring her into your women's group, bring her into your fellowships to talk about financial planning. It's the only way we're going to win at this game, and we don't have to do it alone. We have an expert here. I would encourage you to reach out to her. Say that email address again.
Sure. Info at masterplaninvestmentgroup.com.
Ka'Neda's coming back. She's going to talk to you.
I'm excited. I'm here to make some money and make sure it lasts for generations to come. That's what we do.
It's about getting the bag. It's about your social circles. My name is Annette Lateague. I'm your host here at Word on Curve Podcast. Again, you can see us on Facebook. You don't have to watch us live. We would encourage you to, but you can always come back to this podcast. Word on the Curve Podcast on Facebook, Word on the Curve Podcast Studios on YouTube. I'd like to thank you, Ka'Neda. I'm looking forward to your second podcast about social circles, budgeting, and building generational wealth. I'd like to thank my audience for joining me here this evening. Chris and Frank, I hope you're back from Europe. We have loads of things to talk about. Good night, all. And again, thank you for joining us here at Word on the Curve Podcast. Good night, Ka'Neda. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.